What's up guys, Houndish here with some juicy Destiny 2 new stuff to jump in and talk about. And in today's video, we're going to speak about the Black Armory. We have some of the first hints about story and lore surrounding Black Armory's Golden Age weaponsmiths, their origins, and the houses which they belong to. We'll discuss exactly what that could mean in just a moment. But we're also going to round up some of the new info about Season 5 quests and rewards, hints towards future content, a pretty broken exotic glitch in the game right now, and we'll also round up some other important info in this video as well. So I hope you guys do enjoy it as always, but now let's get into it. So what's up guys, we've got a lot of stuff to speak about in this video. First up, we're going to talk about the Black Armory DLC dropping on the 4th of December. Bungie have been pretty quiet about this DLC. We've had a few teasers towards some of the content, the Lost Forges, new Horde mode. Of course, we'll get a new raid lair. We can expect new gear, new exotics, quests, and a bunch of other stuff. But otherwise, we're fairly blind on the content itself. However, we've now got some of the first teasers towards some of the story content that we're going to see. This is certainly going to be a big part of the lore that we'll get in Black Armory, and it seems likely to influence some of the quests that we'll see, as well as the backstory for the rewards. So interestingly, Bungie released some new Black Armory merchandise on the Bungie store, and this is alongside a bunch of sales for Black Friday. We can see this pretty cool Black Armory shirt right here. However, it's when you look at the description for the shirt that things get pretty interesting. So it reads, 3 lost cultures from the Golden Age had a hand in forging some of the most amazing weapons the Guardians have ever seen. Your quest to find them is a perfect occasion for this sleeved chest piece. And of course, when we look at the shirt, you do have the Black Armory icon itself, but then you have 3 additional symbols around the outside, and Bungie make reference to these 3 lost cultures from the Golden Age and their influence in forging these amazing weapons. And of course, throughout Black Armory, we'll be on a quest to hunt these down, and we're going to learn a lot about their history as we do it. But when you read further into the description, things get a little bit more interesting. So it says Black Armory logo on the front and house crests on the back. Now, if we look at the back of the shirt, we can see these 3 icons right here, and of course, Bungie make reference to house crests. And so we have our first little interesting tease right there. And like I said, this could of course affect some of the content. Now we don't know that much about these ancient houses themselves. However, some of the symbols that we see are actually linked to different planets, and this was pointed out by KenzoMax on Reddit. So the inverted sickle on the front right here at the bottom is linked to Saturn. The leaves that we can see on the back in the icon here are actually linked to Jupiter. And so perhaps some of these houses, these ancient factions, were located in all different places across the system. However, we do know that you can see some of these icons on Black Armory weapons. So we have the whale icon right here. And this is also present on the exotic sniper that Bungie teased in one of the earlier vidocs. So what do these new houses or factions actually mean for the game? Well, personally, I don't see us having a bunch of new vendors or anything like that. Although you never know, I'd be pretty surprised if we got a bunch of new vendors or mini kind of factions related to Black Armory. However, these houses will almost certainly influence some of the quest content that we're going to see, because of course we're going to be hunting down these Golden Age weapons, perhaps reacquiring parts and helping to rebuild stuff. We do have an activity called Lost Forges, and they make reference to these houses forging various elite weapons. So at the very least, we're likely to learn a lot of history, the origins of these houses, and of course we can expect a ton of that lore to be on some of the new exotics that we're going to see. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about that down below, guys. According to Bungie, these annual pass updates aren't going to have full-blown campaigns or anything like that, so a lot of the story and the lore is going to be delivered through things like quests and the rewards themselves. So the Black Armory and the house forges related to it seem like a great opportunity to deliver that kind of content during the gameplay. Now that we've got some of that new story info out of the way though, let's talk about some other things coming in Season 5. Bungie spoke about new Pinnacle Weapons, and we know that there will be one for the Crucible. Just to confirm, somebody asked, will there be a Legend Glory rank weapon this time? And of course that's the max competitive score, and DMG said Not Forgotten will remain the reward for reaching Legend. So the good thing is, if you want to try and get Not Forgotten, you can continue to do that. However, if you've already obtained it, there won't be a new weapon reward or anything like that for reaching Legend in Season 5, so do bear that in mind. We'll talk a little more about new content in a moment, but now let's talk about a pretty potent exotic damage glitch being used to destroy bosses in Destiny 2 right now. So you may have heard about this one, but Syntheseps at the moment is actually kind of broken. And just before we talk about it, Cosmo did recognize this. He said, we're currently investigating the issue, and thanks for reporting. But Syntheseps, the Titan exotic gauntlet, actually improve your melee and super damage when you're surrounded by enemies. However, this effect is actually transferring to weapons inside of a Well of Radiance. So if you have a Warlock with you who pops a Well of Radiance, Radiance, but you're wearing Syntheseps, when Biotic Enhancements actually procs, the damage that should be applied only to melees and supers will actually apply to your weapons. So purely as an example, if you had a team of 4 players, one of them was a Warlock, the other 3 were Titans, you could get the Warlock to pop the Well of Radiance, and then you would have 3 players receiving a significant damage buff to their weapons inside of that Well of Radiance. And you may have seen some videos about this. Astacross posted one showing it off in Gambit. This is me and a couple of friends trying it in Gambit right here. You can see that we pop Well of Radiance, we're not worrying about Primeval stacks or anything like that. We've got 3 Titans with Syntheseps, and we're using the Ikelos shotgun. So what's actually happening is we're stacking Melting Point with the Well of Radiance damage buff. Melting Point is proccing Trench Barrel. The Warlock is also empowering us inside of that Well of Radiance. And then because Biotic Enhancements are doing a ridiculous amount of damage to the weapons, which they shouldn't be, you can see the kind of damage we're capable of putting out right here. We've also tried it in the raid. There've been other folks 2-manning Riven and things like that with it. All kinds of crazy stuff going off. So if you're curious about that glitch, this is actually how it works. Biotic Enhancements essentially transfers additional melee damage to weapons instead when you're in a Well of Radiance. But of course, it is pretty broken. You can do this to a Primeval in Gambit and destroy them way quicker than you're supposed to be able to do before you've even got Primeval damage stacks and stuff like that. So while it is pretty fun in things like the raid, it also does pose a bit of a competitive issue and also just a basic fairness issue. But considering people are doing this a lot right now, I figured I'd break it down so you know how it works and you know what's going on. And like I said, Bungie are looking into it, so it's likely we'll see a fix very soon. Bungie are also still aware of the Lunafaction boot perks not actually giving you that effect for the entire duration of a Well of Radiance. That's not intentional, and it's another change that Bungie are looking to get into the game very soon. But now, back to Season 5 content and the Pinnacle Weapons that Bungie spoke about. We've got the new fusion rifle for Vanguard. Very briefly, in case you don't know, it does have a bonus called Reservoir Burst. When the battery is full, your next burst deals additional damage and causes enemies to explode on death. It's going to be a pretty interesting one. There's also the Breakneck auto rifle with Onslaught, and the weapon's rate of fire will increase as you stack Rampage. And then the Crucible will have a new grenade launcher with micro missile. The weapon fires in a straight line and has a massively increased projectile speed. Now, many of these bonuses have actually been visible since Forsaken dropped, and interestingly, there are other bonuses which we could well see on Pinnacle Weapons, hidden weapons, and exotics in Black Armory. So we've got High Noon. Readying this weapon grants a brief period of bonus precision damage, and I mentioned this before, but this could be a reworked Last Word bonus. Of course, the whole High Noon cowboy reference, and the Last Word absolutely fitting that style, and it sounds like this could be a reworked version of the somewhat problematic original perk on the weapon, where you get the bonus precision damage from readying the weapon instead. So that absolutely could be a Last Word bonus, but there is also Arms Master. Kills with other weapons improve this weapon's damage, and that kind of sounds like it might be a pairing bonus, so we could potentially see a Mida Multi-Tool and Mini-Tool style thing in the game again at some point, or it could just be a general trait. But then there is Fistfuls of Bullets. Melee kills overload the magazine to double its capacity. It's going to be very interesting to see if we actually get these bonuses in the game. Also, when it comes to hints towards future content, there's an interesting new audio line found for the Drifter in the game, and it says this system is bigger than it used to be. I hear the 9 set up shop somewhere nearby, made a little pocket playground for themselves. Sounds like a new Gambit arena to me. So could that be a tease towards a new Gambit map that we'll actually see, maybe in Season 5, or maybe in Season of the Drifter when Gambit gets a lot of updates? Also, a spoiler alert right here, but there are some lines from Mara Sov. This one's interesting. I dreamt of a friend I will come to have. She will tell me a side should always be taken, even if it is the wrong side. I think I should like her. And of course, that quote actually comes from the stranger in Destiny 1. And Mara Sov's been seeing all kinds of interesting premonitions and things in her throne world. Some of them we've been witnessing when she's present, so maybe this is one that we'll see in the future. Just thought those were a couple of interesting hints there, and many of these were found by Wolf of Walgreens on Reddit. It's an interesting thread discussing a lot of that stuff, which I'll link below. Final thing I wanted to touch on are some roundups about Gambit, and this was actually transcribed from a recent Bungie stream on DestinyRoundup.com. Absolutely excellent website if you want to keep up to date with Destiny news, and credit to Shackle Shotgun who runs the site. You can check it out in the description. But there was a question about Gambit and motes, and we got some developer insight about this. So the question was, motes can seem difficult and inconsistent to pick up at times. Could the mote pickup area be increased? And Robbie Stevens from Bungie said, that's an interesting question. It's something that we've talked about on the team a lot. server. The thing to consider with this is, the motes themselves are actually what we call networked, which means we actually have to track if 2 or 3 players are trying to pick up the mote at the same time. Basically, the way our tech works is as soon as we detect someone is trying to pick up this mote, will be the first person we understand on our side, basically on our server side. And it basically means that motes are subject to network latency, and that's why sometimes you might watch one person kill a combatant, a mote flies into the air, and it looks like it's falling on that person, and then you get close to it, but the other person picked it up. That's just the latency of the game, and what could happen if we increase the pickup radius is that you would run into a lot of situations where you thought you were claiming that mote, but in fact, another player actually did. It's something that we've thought about, and we've definitely playtested it a little bit, but it felt in general like players were stealing motes from right under you more often than not. It wasn't an intentional design, but at the same time increasing the radius could have a lot of negative effects, and that's why we're not super comfortable with doing it at this time. So just an insight into the kind of mote pickup radius, why sometimes they seem a little bit buggy. Essentially the reason for that is that the game is tracking all of the motes that are being dropped on the ground, all of the players, their positions, whether they've picked up those motes, and all of that, of course, is networked, so you will see some lag from time to time. I guess sometimes it's easy to think about PvE content as just a game, but in Destiny it can actually be pretty complicated, sometimes even more so than PvP because of the sandbox elements inside of the game, especially something like Gambit. So pretty interesting feedback, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. But guys, that is going to summarize the video. Let me know your thoughts on that new story info about Black Armory, the forge houses that we're going to see and learn more about. That sounds really cool. Let me know if you've experienced that syntheset bug or any of your thoughts about new Pinnacle Weapons and the hidden bonuses in the database. But if you have enjoyed this one, a like really helps me out down below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to keep up to date with Destiny 2. I cover pretty much everything to do with the game right here. But as always, guys, I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you very soon.